Hi, I'm Heather from here booktubes. I, first of all, have low-key F 2020 stuck in my head. Low-key F 2020. And it's a problem because that's the only line I know. And I saw on somebody's Instagram stories today, and now it's just stuck in my head. 2020, we collectively like to continuously talk about what a disaster it was. And yet, there was plenty of good for my family. My father-in-law is actually supposed to be released from the hospital with COVID any minute now. So while we're not untouched, it's still been a good year for me personally. I love being home, so I've not had trouble. I haven't had too much trouble, maybe I should say, being home all the time and stuck in the house. I love my family. I enjoy being with them. I have maintained a small circle of people who I have seen in person, not during actual lockdowns, but through the rest of the year for human contact. And, I've tried to really have a good balance and to take it seriously and also not be in such isolation that it becomes a real problem for my mental health. So I read some good books. I read like 460 books. I DNF'd who knows how many of them. And I read a lot. I obviously read a bunch from my favorite authors. The only one that I did more than one book for was Kristen Ashley. And that's just because, they needed to be on the list. I'm so excited to talk to you guys about these books. So the very first one was Royally Bitten, which is Blood Alliance #2 by Lexi C. Foss. If you are a regular viewer of my channel, then you have heard me talk about Chastely Bitten about a bajillion times. But Royally Bitten is the second book in the series, so you can read these as standalones, although the books are so fantastic, I would never recommend for you to skip any of them because they're great. So basically, they have a arena games type situation where the humans that are picked can fight each other, and they can one will become a werewolf and one will become a vampire. And so she is supposed to go in the games, and she's at the selection type thing, and she gets picked by a royal vampire to be a member of his harem. Now, his entire harem was brutally murdered because somebody is framing him for immortal insanity. So he didn't do it, but everybody thinks he did it. And so his plan is that she's going to be the bait, and he's going to lure them out to play because nobody touches what's his, including her. And she is not happy. She wanted to fight in the game. She wanted to become immortal. Now she's just stuck in an insane person's harem. And she kind of sealed her fate. First of all, there was nothing she could do. She didn't know that, but it was so fixed and it was shown. But then also, she bites him when he is checking her out via kissing. So just a reminder, if you've never heard me talk about this before somehow, this is a pretty brutal world of a dystopian world where vampires and werewolves rule. Humans are just food. The only reason we're not extinct is because they need us as a food source, but they are basically farmed. They have no rights. Your entire life is picked for you, and the most that you can possibly hope for, and it happens to one person, is that you win the games and be turned into an immortal. I love this series partially because even though it's so brutal and I'm not super into overly brutal stuff, it is fascinating to see the difference between the human main characters and the points of view from their vampire mates, who just think and act and function completely differently. And it's so good. So good. Smutty, sexy, brutal, great plot, great twist, great setup for the world. It's just fantastic. I really recommend this series. And I still have the third one on my TBR. You might have heard me mention it before. The second one I did read in 2020, and it was awesome. Then I have Ride Steady, which is Chaos #3 by Kristen Ashley. This is a motorcycle club romance. It's the third in the series. You can read it as a standalone if you would like, as this couple is their own story. There is a little bit of an overarching plot with the motorcycle club, but it doesn't matter. You can read it in order or not, up to you. So in the prologue, we get that his dad was abusive, and that's very obvious. He would hit him and things like that. They knew each other in high school, and he was basically taking the abuse until he graduates from high school, and then he can't take it anymore. And she was always really into him. She was really popular. She had everything that she could want into life. She was always really into him, was really kind and sweet, but he didn't think that he was worthy of her. And so he takes off, and then he comes back years later, and he's in this motorcycle club, and she is now a single mom. Life has not treated her great, although nothing bad really happens after the prologue. So the prologue, where you see how his dad is treating him, is the hardest part of the book to read, and it's still done well. It's not outside of my comfort zone. So she's stuck on the side of the road with a flat tire, and he recognizes her, and she doesn't recognize him, and he rescues her and doesn't think that he's worthy of her still, but he does get over that pretty quickly, and then he pursues her, and they are so sweet to each other. This is an emotional read. You know I don't do emotions, but this is an emotional read, and it was so stinking sweet. It's two people who should have been together the whole time, but life hadn't allowed that to happen, and now they're together, and they're so happy, and I loved it so much. Then I have The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. This is not my typical read. It was not a smutty insta-love romance. It was not heavily focused on the romance at all, honestly. It was so inspirational and beautiful and sweet and charming. The writing was just fantastic. I really, really loved it. So we have a middle-aged man as our main character. TJ Klune is an own voices writer for male-male romance, and in this world there is no homophobia, so there are lots of characters who are gay, and there's no issue with that. What there is prejudice against, however, are the paranormals. But he goes into orphanages for paranormal children, and he checks to see if they are going by the codes and regulations. He loves the rule book, he lives by it, and he is perfectly happy doing that. Being alone, being in a sad little house in the city, in the rain, hating his coworkers, but feels like his job is really important, really cares about the children, but thinks that the codes and regulations, the rule book, that's the way to go. Well, he gets called up by extremely upper management to go on a secret mission to the most classified paranormal children's home, and they want to know everything, especially about the caretaker. So he falls in love with the caretaker, who is so sweet, and he always has colorful socks, and his pants are always too short, and he's just like so smart and so sweet, and I love him. And there's these children who are just misfits and who are powerful and who people are scared of. There's a lot of prejudice against it, and just the growth in his character as he finds out that what he believed his whole life was not accurate and was not true, and that he might be part of the problem rather than part of the solution, and loving these kids and the caretaker and then the fairy island sprites. It's so sweet. It is a fantastic book. I saw nothing but rave reviews. I did think that there would be more romance in it, or I probably wouldn't have picked it up, and I'm really glad that I did pick it up because it was an absolute delight. Then I have Fake It Till You Break It by Meagan and Brandy. This is a high school fake dating romance. This is kind of an enemies to lovers type situation, and he has a lot of animosity towards her. She doesn't really have too much animosity towards him, and so they end up doing a fake dating thing, I think to get the attention of another football player or something like that. And I just loved it. Her books have a lot more conflict in them than I tend to like, and yet they are so extremely addictive that once I pick one up, I cannot put it down, and I will read it and read it and read it until it is done, because it is highly addictive and crazy and over the top, and I just really, really love it. Then I have Twisted Kingdom, which is Royal Elite number 3 by Rena Kent. I often talk about the first book, Deviant King, but this third one was in fact my favorite. We got the couple being a more solidified couple. We continue to watch the twists and the turns and the escalation of the plot and all the crazy things that she threw in there. There's a lot in this series. It does start out as a bully romance. There's definitely some dubious consent going on, so that would be a big trigger. There's also some child abuse, and it is a dark romance, so if you need triggers, be aware of that before you start reading this book. But she shows up and he's like the king of the school, and he instantly hates her and just makes her life miserable. And when she tries standing up to him, there's like quite a bit of sexual tension slash the dubious consent part. And so it starts out wild and crazy. Now, in this third book, especially, like I said, you get a more solidified couple. You know more of what's going on. You kind of understand the motivations behind some of the reactions. But it's over the top, wild, crazy. Read it with your eyes wide open. What is happening? What am I reading? Do I like this? Do I not like this? I don't know. Let's find out what happens. It's crazy. If you're into that type of thing, high school drama, bully, addictive, twists and turns and dark, and it's good. Then I have Deacon, which is Unfinished Hero number 4 by Kristen and Ashley. This book made me cry so hard. If you do not want to cry when they tell you about the songs that they pick for each other, don't listen to them if you don't want to cry, because when I tell you it moved me to tears, those songs are still on my moody playlist. Like, I was just like, oh my gosh, I just want you to be happy. Just be happy. And it takes them a while. And when the songs show up, man, it's a lot. Okay, so basically he has a very traumatic past. Something happened and he went to the criminal underworld, found that he fit, and he stayed there, and he's honestly dead inside and is just existing and is not living his life. He goes to this cabin that he sometimes stays in on jobs in the Colorado mountains and finds that there are new owners, and one of the new owners is Cassidy. I think it's Cassidy. I forgot to write down the name. It's fine. Everything is fine. She has bought these cabins and she has her loser boyfriend with her. And then the next time he comes around, she has dumped him, and she wants him, but he is not ready. And he fights it and he fights it and he fights it and fights it. And, you know, comes and stays at the cabin when he has a job in town. And it is years later. I tell you that I'm not prepared for a slow burn. Years later, he finally is just like, why do you not have a man? Every time I come back, I'm like, she's gonna have a man. Why do you not have a man? And he gives in and he makes her happy. And she brings him back to life, and they're just so freaking sweet. I love them so much. But I cried my eyes out reading this stupid book. It's one of those books. All of these kind of are like this. You want to reread it now that you know what happens. You know what to expect, and you just kind of want to go on that ride again, but with the knowledge that you have. So sweet. So emotional. So sweet. Then I have Counterfeit Love by Jessica Gaziella. I love this book so much. I just love this couple. You know, I'm a sucker for an alpha hero. But this guy is such a cinnamon roll. He's the sweetest. He's the sweetest stinking guy. I love him so much. You don't even know. I adore him. and he just complimented the main character so well. So well. So we have a cinnamon roll counterfeiter, and we have a sexual trafficking survivor that is dealt with very respectfully and well. I always appreciate that Jessica Gaziello will talk about really hard topics without having just page after page of brutal abuse. You know, I don't want to read that. I want to know what the character has gone through without having to read horrifying scenes. And so I really appreciate how she does that. She is a sexual trafficking survivor, and she is very type A, and she has made it her mission to take down traffickers and clients. So that is what she's doing, and she needs a counterfeiter. So she bursts in the door of his apartment and blackmails him into counterfeiting for her. And he's like, you really didn't have to do this. You could have just asked me. You have a good cause. I would have helped you. And he quit smoking, so he always has cherry lollipops, and so it's like a huge thing. And he is just the cutest and the funniest, and he reads her so well. So if she needs a joke, if she needs somebody to be understanding, if she needs somebody to just let her do her thing, he reads her so well, and it's just like the perfect counter. Oh, I love him. This is just a fantastic book of two people loving each other because of their issues and their quirks and their weirdness and the things that would rub other people wrong, instead of in spite of it, and just how they are the perfect match and just love each other. And I cried happy tears on this one because I was just like, oh, you guys are so cute, you're so happy, yay. That was my reaction. It was just so stinking sweet, and I just loved how he let her do her thing, and he was just the perfect balance to her and made her life so much better without having to take it over. And I just loved it. You should read it. So good. Then I have Let Me Love You, which is McLean Brothers #1 by Alexandria House. You know, I love this book. So Jo is a single mom, and she is a ex of somebody famous, and she has a job as a jeweler, and she goes to bring this necklace to Big South, the rapper, and she goes in and has just the worst first impression with him, and is like, you are a jerk, and I'm such a big fan of you, but honestly, like, no thank you. And he is like so into her. He has just had like casual relationships and didn't want to put in the time to pursue anything, and then he sees her and he's like, I want to be with you. And so he makes it right, and he does all these things to try and win her, and the characters are really happy together for a long period in the book. I love that. I don't like when characters don't get together, so 95% drives me crazy. It's fine. But he treats her so well, and you meet his whole family, who of course all get their own books, and you fall in love with all of them, and they're so sweet and kind and caring, while also teasing and razzing and being loud and crazy and, you know, calling each other out, and they're so awesome. Like, I love them. And then there's so many like running jokes in this series. I really love it. And if you are a fan of Alexandria House, I actually really recommend that you follow her on Instagram. She will do like character posts. So she will post text messages from the characters, or she will post a magazine cover of the main character and stuff like that. And it's just like the coolest author social media that I've seen, where it's almost like, yes, she announces her new books and stuff, but she has social media posts of her characters that you know and love, and they're so clever and so good. I just really recommend, if you enjoy her books, follow her on Instagram, because she's really worth it. There's a lot of drama in this book, and it's so delightful. It's so good. It's so good. You should read it. Then I have The Queen's Line, which is Inheritance of Hunger #1 by Catherine Moon. This is a trilogy, And I read each and every book the day that it came out. And by that, I mean the first 2 books. Today, I'm filming this on Tuesday, the 29th. The 3rd book came out. And have I picked it up? No. What am I doing? I'm filming for you because of the love that I have for you. So honestly, you should be thrilled because I want to freaking be reading that 3rd book because I love this series. Love it. So this is a fantasy romance. It is a reverse harem and it is awesome. I love this series, guys. It is absolutely everything that I wanted it to be. So Princess Brandy is the crown princess of Kimmery, and the ruling line of Kimmery has a sexual magic called the hunger. So basically they have an insatiable sexual appetite. They have a harem, a reverse harem, that helps provide for that, and that in turn actually provides prosperity for the country. It's a very important part of the ruling family, and it's passed down from mother to daughter. They don't have sons. The men are just their consorts, and yeah, female power. Well, Princess Kimmery does not have it. And it's time for her to pick her men. She's put it off as long as possible. She picks her men. She doesn't have the hunger. She doesn't know what to do. And her grandmother, who is the power behind the throne because her mother is too busy with her sexual appetite, finds out and is like, I knew it. And so then her mother kind of steps in and it's like, okay, you can do this. So Brandy is going to go north with the men that she picked, see if the hunger shows up, yada, yada, yada. And so she does. And on her journey north, she finds out that the political state in the country is not what she had been led to believe, that not everybody lives in prosperity like they do in the capital city, and that things are just not as they seem, and that she could be in for a fight for power in her life because she's a threat to the people in power, the council. On top of all that, she finds that she might actually have the hunger, but it doesn't work the same way as the rest of her family. And she's dealing with the relationships between her and all of these guys that she picked. It is a little bit of a infamous thing with reverse harems that it can be hard to keep the guys straight. Have you ever seen the YA love interest meme where it's like they're so wildly different and it's like one has brown hair and blue eyes and one has black hair and green eyes and that's like the only difference between the love interest? That's how it can be sometimes with reverse harems. And you're just like, I don't know which one you are. That is not the case in this series. It is so well done. They have such very different positions and interests and personalities and looks that it honestly is much easier to keep them straight. And she does a good job of kind of reminding you of who is who. And I love that while they all kind of adore her and she is the central focus, she has a different relationship with each one of the guys, and I really like that. There's also a male-male relationship within the harem, pretty much true for all of her books, and it is so good, and I can't wait to read the 3rd one, hopefully like tonight. This is just a very clever heroine. It is a super smart main character who makes great decisions, who listens to things that she should listen to, doesn't let people walk all over her, also isn't stupid enough to be like, no, I'm the crown princess, I'm gonna get my way even though I have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about because I don't know anything about this. She does such a great job of being a character that you can root for and that is smart and you're like, yes, yes. And also, this is such a great balance between the political situation and the magic and the guys and the relationship and the fantasy world, and just a great balance of it. Perfect for me, honestly, like exactly my taste. And it's so good. So good. Then I have Little Dove by Layla Frost. I have ranted and raved about this book multiple times since I read it, and actually, The Queen's Line and Little Dove, they came out like the same week, if not the same day, and they were both such favorites, and they were on my anticipated releases, and I was so excited to read them, and they just lived up to my expectations so well. I just love them. But Lil Dove, so Juliet on her 17th birthday is in the house, and her dad gets visited by some men who are bad men and who he owes money and maybe lied to and is maybe a little bit of a loser and maybe a little bit abusive and just so not a great dad. But to a certain extent, he does love her, and so he has her hide in the pantry, and they don't know that she's there, and they kill him. Well, then they find her, and instead of killing her because she was a witness, Maximo, who is like a mafia leader guy, decides to keep her. So he does. And he keeps her for a year. He basically provides for all of her needs via his staff, is very caring, really just wants to take care of her after not so funly laying down the law, is just kind of a benefactor for her without really interacting with her. And then she turns 18 and she finds out that he has been wildly attracted to her and interested in her the entire time, and was just holding himself in check until she turns 18, and that the things that he's given her and the safety and the place to live and the stability, all the things that she never had before, he will continue to provide that for her even if she says no to a relationship. So this ends up being like the healthiest relationship with such good balance and such good give and take and such good communication and all the things between the main characters. Like, it becomes the healthiest relationship, but it does start out as captive captor, and this is age gap. This is a very alpha caring dom, which would be a daddy dom. So basically, she does call him daddy. There is no little play, but think like a very caring, protective, somebody who wants to provide for you, somebody who will do anything for you, and is very dominant, both in and out of the bedroom, but also you call him daddy. That type of daddy kink, if that makes sense to you. If not, feel free to message me on Instagram. I would be happy to tell you more. That actually goes for any books that you want to talk spoilers, or you want to know more, or you're just like, hey, I don't like this, but I like this book anyways. Absolutely feel free to message me on Instagram. I'm always happy to talk books. So they have the best relationship. And it's a lot of things, and it is so good, and I can't wait to reread it. I'm telling you, I cannot wait to reread this book. It is so good. It's so good. You like the main character so much, and it's like, yes, they don't have the most traditional relationship, but it is the right one for them. Like, it is what they need, is perfect for them. And they are the right partner for each other. And I just love it. I love it so much. Then I have A Lesson in Blackmail by K.D. Robichaud. This was such a delight. It was such a surprise for me. So this is a bully high school romance. She is a 22-year-old librarian. She's very submissive. She's very mousy. She's very quiet. And he is Nathaniel Black IV. He is the current heir to the family that started the school and runs the school and rules the school, so nobody can tell him anything. He also has OCD and has a lot of issues with it, although he is able to function and is genetic and it comes from his dad. Well, he's obsessed with her, and during his study period, he likes to mess with her. And he doesn't do anything horrible, but he does like to mess with her, but he doesn't like other people messing with her. And she is just like so intimidated. And then she is a submissive at a BDSM club. And one night, the obsessive part of his OCD kicks in, and he decides to go to her house and see what she's doing. And she is leaving her house. And so he follows her, and she's at the club really early, and so the bouncer's not at the door, and so he follows her in, and he sees her, and he's like, she's like, he can blackmail me, he can blackball me, I will never get another job, I will get fired, this is my dream job, this is all I've ever wanted to do, and he has the secret over me, and he can hold it over me, and I have to do whatever he says. And while on the one hand, he's a little bit thinking, how can I use this to get what I want? He also is actually very caring and protective and possessive. And so while she's like freaking out, he's actually like really good to her. And anything that you're like, that's not like the best thing to do, that actually gets addressed in the book. And so it's super healthy and great communication, even though it's a little bit of maybe not the greatest beginning. It still doesn't cross lines for me. And like I said, anything that you're like, maybe not, gets addressed, and it's so good. So he is 18, obviously. We're not talking about an underage minor. He's 18, she's 22. She's very submissive. He's very alpha. He is very much the aggressor in the situation, and she's a submissive. That is who she is. She's not a doormat. She knows what she's doing in the BDSM lifestyle. She knows what she deserves and what to expect. But he doesn't know anything about BDSM. He knows that he has the urges, but he honestly didn't know what to do about them. And so he hasn't done anything, and he's felt like there's something wrong with him. And so she's the experienced submissive, and he is a brand new dominant, and he learns how to be her dominant, and it's so good. It's so good. Like, I am just obsessed with this book. It is such a delight. They end up having such a great relationship. I just loved it. And I am just normally not into, a faculty member and a student, because it is an icky power play dynamic scenario. But he is the alpha. He's the one with the control. He is the aggressor. So even though he's the 18-year-old student, that's not the ick factor. He's definitely the power player in this. But like I said, she's an experienced submissive, and so she's not going to just be walked over, but she is a submissive person. That is what makes her happy. That is what gives her peace and a rest from anxiety, is to submit to somebody else. And they just have the best relationship. I want to reread this one too. Talking about it just makes me want to reread it. I am a sucker for BDSM, submissive, dominant power play roles or dynamics, and I like that in my books, in the relationships in my books. I love it, and this one was so good. A very last one is The Headmaster by Tiffany Rise. I freaking loved this book. It was such a charming delight. We have Gwen, who randomly shows up at this Gothic academy to try and become a teacher, and they hire her right away to be the new English teacher, and is an all-boys school, and they are teenagers. I don't know if anybody's younger than a teenager, but they're teenagers, and she falls for them. They're so sweet and charming and just awesome, and she really falls for the eccentric, charming headmaster, Edwin. And they have a romance, and there is a mystery element, and she's trying to figure things out. And it's so sweet and so charming. And then, as you know, because I tell you guys this every single time, then there is a twist at the end, and I saw the twist coming. That's fine. But the reason behind the twist made me cry so much. And I was just like, oh, and then happily ever after. And it just left me in my feelings. I was like, why? Why would you do this to me? So it's a happily ever after, but there is an emotional twist right at the end, and it is so good. It was so good. It was so charming. I cannot use that word to describe this book enough. It's just the most atmospheric private academy, ivy growing on the vines, living in the cottage, pouring your tea, a little bit of steam in there. Oh, it's so good. And the headmaster is super polite and charming and eccentric. And when I first picked it up, I actually thought that he would be not really a bully, but I thought it was going to be a little bit of hate to love, and he was going to be, you know, this super stern person who like does power moves, and that was not what I got, and it was absolutely so delightful. I love it so much. I would literally reread all of these books. If you can't tell, I'm a sucker for the characters. If you give me two characters who sell me on the fact that they love each other and will do anything for each other and just make each other's lives so much better because they're in it, and they give them happiness and joy and love and security and comfort and protection, and then you have me. I am a sucker for it. I just want to read about people finding happiness with somebody who loves them. That is what I want. I almost don't even care what trope you set up in, but that is what I want. Obviously, I do like enemies to lovers, age gap, BDSM, bully, reverse harem, vampire, motorcycle club, yada yada yada. But at the same time, I love a happy couple in those tropes. It just makes my heart so happy. And one of those reasons, I think, why I love a protective, possessive alpha hero so much is because I'm a mom and I do things for people all day long. And I love reading about a man who does everything for his woman. Take some of the decisions out of life, because let me tell you, figuring out what 5 people are going to eat 3 times a day every single day, figuring out what your kids are going to wear and where they're going to go and whether they can go and whether they can do this or that and this or that and this or that. You get tired of making decisions. Decision fatigue is real. And so I think that is one small part of why I love reading about alpha heroes, because they tend to take charge. I'm just like, yes, take me with you. Take me on this journey. Don't give me times to make decisions. I don't want to have to think about it. Just let me know what we're going to do. At the same time, in real life, I'm not great with that. I like deciding what I want to do, and what I want to do is sit on the couch and read a book. So there's that. A big part of my favorite books is always the hero. But that main character, I need to like her. I need to be rooting for her. I need to want to be her in order to love the book. So I need to love the hero, but I also need to love the main character, because I think it's easier to get the hero right? Get the appropriate amount of brooding and magnetic personality and will and loving gestures, and you've got a hero. But that main character, you've got to make her smart, you've got to make her likable, you have to have it where she's not a doormat, but she's not so annoying that she's just constantly pushing him away for no reason. It's hard. If it were easy, everybody would do it. And these are just books with characters that you will love, that you will root for, you will want them to have that happily ever after. You will be so pleased when they get it. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for watching my 2020 videos. This is the last one, next to last one, doesn't matter. This is 2021? I don't know. Listen, I had to move things around because of the Secret Santa thing. It's fine, everything is fine. It's fine, don't worry about it. So anyways, I'm not sure when this is going up. However, thanks for watching it. I loved these books. I hope that you read some of them. All right, I gotta go. I'm just rambling for no apparent reason. If you have a handful or one or whatever books that were your favorite that you just know right off the top of your head, this was my favorite book of 2020, comment and tell me. I, of course, want to know that list. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.